Hello and welcome back to this week's edition of Inside Out. Sorry I'm running a little bit late. I had some problems getting connected to online. So hopefully you're finding us that we are. Oops, sorry about that. You're getting some feedback here. Hopefully you're finding us and you'll be joining us for tonight's episode. Just some things going on this week, not a ton. But there are some important things with, just 2 weeks left to the election. We are not, sorry, I'm looking down. I usually push out the link and share this video, so I am trying to take care of that real quick before we get started here. But yep, there we go. We have some things coming up I want to make sure that everyone, is aware of. Hello, Charlotte. Hi, Bill. A huge thank you to my husband for being here to help me set things up tonight. Hi, Katie. He has been invaluable to me, and when he's not here, I really miss him. So when he is here, he helps me set up the camera, because no matter how much I prepare for these weekly episodes, talking about local politics and what's going on in and around McSherrystown, Conewago Township, Hanover Borough, to keep everybody up to date what's going on. It feels like all day Tuesday there's phone calls, there's people, messaging me, letting me know what's going on. Hey, don't forget about this, or did you have this, or do you know about that? And right up till the very last second, I'm typing away furiously. So let's get started. I do want to let you know that most likely between the election and now and the election, which is 2 weeks away, I will be most likely foregoing the quote that we usually open up with, because we really want to focus on the election and the candidates and making sure that we're talking to friends and family, no matter where you live, the importance of getting out and voting in the election. I understand it's not a presidential election, but there's some really important decisions that need to be made. I have been, in the last 15-18 months, talking to a lot of people who are looking at their local situation and they're unhappy. And with social media and, people being able to share information and connect more, they're really finding out that, hey, things don't have to be this way. Like when Hamilton Township got it together and they really did well in their zoning hearing, and we all learned some things, and then they take that back to where they are, and when their municipality says, well, those developers checked all those boxes, so we have to approve them, they say, no, you don't. What we learned here is that if it's overburdensome and going to stress our shared resources, our public safety, our schools, we have the ability to say no to these things. So hi, for everybody joining in, they're popping in here left and right, so I'm not going to be able to say hi to everybody. But if you do reach out and if you have a question, please make sure that you put it in the comments. If I don't get to you on the air, I will get to you after we're off the air. Down below, there's just a few meetings left. Hanover Borough is one of them. I believe that one's tomorrow night. Please check with your local municipalities for updated calendars in case they have schedule changes. But that's what we have going on down there. That'll be going throughout. YouTube is updated with the September and October Borough Council meetings, Inside Out episodes from the end of September to last week. And we also put on a community event, Voices of Malawi. I'm going to give you a recap on that in a little bit. I did not upload the Conewago Township meeting. Based on the numbers I was seeing today, a lot of people have viewed that, which is fantastic. If there is somebody out there who would like me to put that up on YouTube so that you can share it to people who aren't on Facebook, happy to do that. Please just let me know. And as always, thank you for joining us. I'm really excited about the numbers we've been seeing lately, the engagement, people reaching out positive. They want to know more. They want information. At each episode, there is links at the top. I'm pointing like you can see, but at the top of the post, helpful links about some of the things that we talk about. If I mention something and you don't see a link up there, please mention it to me. I will find a link and get it up there. I do my best to keep those updated. I do want to stress the intention of Tim is to inform and empower the people who live in and around McSherrystown. I want you to have access to the details and the information that you need in order to make informed decisions. That's why we're all doing these things. My husband, Bill Smith, was at the meeting last night at Conewago. He was live streaming it. Dan usually handles the live streaming of the McSherrystown Borough Council meetings. We were asked to come to the Conewago Township meeting, not by Conewago Township supervisors, but people who live in Conewago Township. We did ask permission before we live streamed, so I don't want anyone to think that we just walked in there and assumed that we could do anything. We're trying to be respectful. We're not interfering in the process. We're just trying to bring the information to you because people were concerned because they weren't able to make it last night and they wanted to know what was going to be going on since they were talking about some issues that they have. But it's more than just informing you. When you have these videos, the municipality, the meetings, whatever they are, if special meeting or regular meeting, it helps with accountability so that people can really see what's going on. And I think that's important, transparency and accountability. You hear those words a lot lately, but it really is truly the mission of this project to bring transparency and information to the community. So we hope we're doing that. And, you know, our primary focus is always what's going on in McSherrystown. We realize that we don't exist in a bubble here in McSherrystown. What happens here affects our neighbors, and what happens with our neighbors affects us. So, you know, we have to look at everything that what's going on. That's why we sometimes look at Hamilton and Conewago and Penn Township and Hanover, or any place we share resources with, like school, fire, EMS, or water services. So that's really our point with doing this. And yes, we do intend to continue after the election, no matter who wins. I personally am hoping for the 5 candidates you see up on your screen, and I know if you're watching on a phone, sometimes seeing things on the screen isn't easy, but that's Mark Lookenbill, Daniel Colgan, William F. Smith Jr., George Staub, and Joyce Murrin. Joyce Murrin's running for the 2-year term. The other 4 candidates are running for the 4-year term. You're going to see all their names on the ballot. There's a difference between here and the primary that I would like to highlight and mention. Some people mention, oh, well, we voted for them in the primary. We're just waiting for them to get sworn in. No, you got them on the ballot, which is great. You don't have to write anybody in this time, but we still need you to come out and vote. And not just here. It was disappointing to hear about low election turnouts in York County and the different areas around here. And, you know, because people think that it doesn't matter. It's not going to make a difference anyhow, sometimes is what I hear. But if nothing else has, you know, a lesson that we've learned throughout this is you can make a difference. Look in Hamilton Township. Look next door. Was it, oh, I forget the name, Butler. They stood up against, and even last night, if you watch the meeting, they didn't get a favorable response. They didn't get the township to agree to submit a resolution, but they certainly came together and made their intentions known. So that is something where, you know, it puts pressure on and the whole transparency of the issue. So I just kind of wanted to mention that, why we do this, why we'll be continuing to do this, and hopefully the information that we're bringing to you is helpful. Let's go on to community events real quick. We have a couple things to talk about. The drug take back is this Saturday, October 26th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. There are 8 locations around the county. I hope you will come, and this is a nationwide event, so no matter where you live, even if you're not local, please look for this event. You can come join us at the Moose Lodge in McSherrystown to drop off your medication. They take pet medication, over-the-counter medication, expired medications you just don't use anymore, liquids. They do ask no needles, no sharps, no intravenous solutions, and that is put on or sponsored by the Collaboration for Youth in Gettysburg and hosted by the McSherrystown Police Department here at the Moose. Each municipality, their host is that local police department. So please look for that information, but we hope you'll come out and say hi to us in McSherrystown. Coming up, I can't say this enough, Tuesday, October 29th, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Even if you don't have little ones that you're taking to trick or treat, please be mindful of whatever is going on in your community, trick or treat night, to watch and be a little extra careful for those kids that are out there. Sometimes those masks, despite the best of intentions, make it a little hard to see. So keep an eye out for the kids, and hopefully you'll be out there handing out candy or taking your children or grandchildren or loved ones out there trick-or-treating with you. So we'll look forward to see you out there. I do want to give a huge thank you to the John T. Riley Historical Society. They were really great letting us come in and videotape Mary Furlong's presentation, Voices of Malawi. We hope to be able to get to do more events like that. Tom Greenholt gave some local history about McSherrystown. And I do just want to show you this. This is a book that the Historical Society, gotta line up that camera. The Historical Society does have available. Tom Greenholt did the research on this. This is a book of historical trivia of the borough of McSherrystown. It covers 1884 to 1920. It talks about ordinances and goes through different meeting minutes and tells you things that just you might not know. And if you're interested in local history, there's things in here about men's fashion, women's fashion, just different things of the era. So for $12, this is an awesome little book. We did purchase this that night, so I would suggest reaching out to Tom Greenholt or the Historical Society if you're interested. If you haven't watched that video, please go and check that out at the end. I think it's called The Spirit of Barlow, and it talks about some local history and museum. It's a video. I don't have the cost of that, and there is also a book they talk about. But the Historical Society has fantastic information that I'm a history buff, so that kind of stuff, that's just, I'm hoping we're able to bring you more of that. That just interests me. As I mentioned before, we do have 14 days until the general election. There you go. The candidates are up there. So maybe you can see them a little bit better, but it's Mark Lookenbill, Dan Colgan, William F. Smith Jr., George Staub, and Joyce Murrin, who are running for Borough Council. And these are candidates that I support, and the reason that we started doing this whole thing was the transparency issue. We don't feel that there's transparency in McSherrystown Borough. If you've been watching any of the meetings, you might have gotten an idea of where we're getting that impression from. And, some things that are going on that it just, here's one of the things. At the last meeting, they talked about SB 101, which I do have a link up there, which is an amendment of Section 513 of the State Highway Law, which basically wants to shift the financial responsibility from the Commonwealth over to the boroughs. And the borough was like, oh, this is great. The resolution was submitted to them, that they put together something and considered this and explained the process to it, which is really great. They're talking about, oh, this could save us money. This would be great. The problem is they failed to actually do the research and read the information on the bill itself, because it only applies to boroughs that have 2,500 or less people. So it doesn't affect us. We have 3,000 people, a little over 3,000 people. So in this exact same meeting where they're talking about this and how we should do this and this could save us money and how this would be great, they're also saying, when they were asked by Dan Colgan, who's one of the candidates running, what is your position on Eisenhower Drive and why haven't we heard anything? Well, they have no position because no one's going to listen to us anyhow. I think that was Lisa Kuntz who said that. That's not a direct quote. You have to go back and listen to that. But the sentiment was, they're not going to listen to anything we say, so why would we give an opinion or put that out there? Yet you want to pass a resolution that has nothing to do with us. That the resolution, the only purpose of a resolution is to support, in this case, is to support the bill that is right now sitting in the Transportation Committee of the Senate. So it has 3 more phases, I think it goes through, before it even gets to a vote, which then could make it a law, which would then they would bring it to and shift that financial responsibility for 116, the stormwater drains and receptacles. They're willing to submit a resolution which doesn't affect us because they didn't read it and it could save us money, but they're not willing to take a position or a stance or make a resolution in support of the no bill, which would directly affect McSherrystown. And this is the imbalance of our council. These are the things that I don't understand, the inconsistency of where they're ready to leap without looking if they think that it makes them look good. That's my opinion when it comes to that. So and I believe it was Jovan Sass who said, well, they don't tell us anything. You know what we know. Like, you were at that meeting. You went to that meeting. You know, what's the point of us, as, you know, they're not going to tell us anything. I don't get that. And the manager at Conewago Township, Barb Krebs, essentially said the same thing at last night's Conewago Township, that she's reaching out to Penn Township and they're not getting back to her. And I don't get that, because every time I send an email, every time I try and ask for information, I get a reply back. It may be I don't know, but usually it's not. And I'll go into some of the information that they most recently sent me. But PennDOT, according to my personal experience and the experience of people that I know that either have recently worked for or do work at municipalities in the area, PennDOT gets back to them when they have a question. So I don't understand when elected or appointed officials don't want to answer a question, they're not getting back to me. Well, you're here to represent our interests. We deserve the answers to those questions. It's just another example of why, if your elected officials aren't doing their job, you need to replace them. This is why it's important to be involved. This is why we stream the meetings, because we know everybody can't be there all the time, but there needs to be some accountability, even if only one person's sitting in the room, that you're doing your job. So, you know, when it comes to Eisenhower Drive, the extension, McSherrystown is directly affected by the TSM route. That's the one that would come down the 600 block of Main Street. It would be indirectly affected by the 5C. So if any municipality would have a standing to say something, I think that Conewago Township and McSherrystown and Hanover, two of those three are refusing to take a public stance because they don't want to get involved, or maybe they do want the extension, where Hanover Borough has said TSM is bad for us, but we think you should go ahead and put it in over at the 5C. So they're shifting what they don't want onto us, and I'm going to explain some of the numbers and go into that in a little bit for you. But let's get back, you know, to the election, and again, the McSherrystown Borough Council. So they seem to be vocal enough about their support about SB 101, but they don't want to say, and to the point, I'm sorry, I'm a little scattered, but they were so vocal with the SB 101 and about their support for it that the Gettysburg Times actually reported that they passed the resolution, a resolution that they hadn't drafted or didn't sign. So that shows you the degree of which avoidance for this council. They don't do research. They push through what they think will make them look good, which is why we need to give somebody else a chance to be in there and actually do the work and be accountable to the community. Coming up for the election, the last day to apply for your absentee ballot is October 29th. So that clock is ticking. If you haven't already and you need to, please make sure you're doing that. Some people have come to me and mentioned that they've already cast their ballots because they'll be traveling or away on vacation or away for school, so they've done that. The municipal election is November 5th. Adams County polling places are open for voting from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. Links to the sites are available in the description of the post if you're looking for you know, your rights as a voter and your polling places. Again, I will stress this over and over and over again until the election. If you make a mistake, sorry, I have no idea what that noise was. If you make a mistake or you think you did when casting your vote, please ask for a new ballot. If you're using a paper ballot like we do in McSherrystown, your vote is not cast until it's run through the scanner. That I can't tell you, a couple people came to me with that. I nearly messed up my primary ballot. So, you know, just be aware of that. So let me just see here. I think that is all that we're doing for community news, and we're 20 after, so the next thing we're talking about is the Eisenhower Drive Extension project, which coincides with last night's Conewago Township meeting. I think the last numbers I saw were that was somewhere near 6,000 or 5,000 pages and close to 3,000 views, so and like 700 or 800 engagements, which was really good. So I know people have seen it. Hopefully, if you're watching, you're one of the people who did see it. So this is little updated information from project manager Ben Singer. I asked him about the affected acreage between the TSM and the 5C because the favorite battle cry I'm hearing, or the thing I'm hearing, is the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. 53, I think, properties would be affected by the TSM. Our commute time is precious. You're only looking at 7 properties over here on the 5C. You know, stop trying to stand in the way of progress, you know. So I wanted to look at that and say, okay, let's really look at this breakdown, because I keep hearing about right-of-way and road frontage and how much land is being affected across that 5C area. So the TSM impact has approximately 20 acres that are affected. That was not broken out by PennDOT, and I think that's because most of that property is either commercial or mixed-use residential. There is some straight residential, but they didn't give me that breakdown to pass along to you. However, the 5C impacts a total of 45 acres, which is slated for seizure under the eminent domain for the Eisenhower Drive Extension project. That's 5 acres which are commercial, 35 acres which are agricultural. One of those properties that falls under agricultural that has some acreage that's being taken, not a full, you know, farm, but is slated to be rezoned or petitioning to be rezoned as residential. I'm not sure how many acres that will shift from agricultural to residential, but as of Monday, he didn't have that it actually had been changed over to residential just yet, and 5 acres are residential. If you listened to the meeting last night, I believe it was Steve Smith, who owns the Smith Farm, mentioned 10 acres of his will be affected, which is approximately 8% of his annual income. He can't relocate that acreage somewhere else. He doesn't have that ability, so he's losing approximately 8% of his annual income. That's not a low impact. You're also looking at another statistic. He said it takes about 1 acre to feed 10 people. So you're looking at 35 acres that are being impacted of agricultural land. That's a pretty big impact. And once this comes through, that's more and more acreage that's likely to be lost through future development. It could happen anyhow, but it's less likely to happen. And for people to say, oh, well, there's a preserve, you can put your property in preserve and protect it. He does have his property in a preserve, but they can still come in and take it. So essentially what you're having done here is a transportation project that's not meeting its stated goals, which will end up furthering the commercialization of the area, feeding into a commercial project of the Golden Mile, being taken away from individual owners for commercial individual owners' profit. That doesn't seem like a proper use of eminent domain to me. You know, if it was a necessary feature, and the Historical Society, I want to thank Charlotte Schaefer for pointing this out to me. I hadn't had time to go over to Project Pathways, and I don't think I have that link up there, but I can get it up there for you to go in and see the communication where the Historical Preservation questioned quite a few of the limited investigations of PennDOT, citing high impact into multiple areas that they failed to recognize. And one of those areas that they're questioning is, have you looked at enough existing roadways in order to look at other areas where you could enhance without taking away agricultural land first? I don't think there's anybody who thinks that the TSM project is a good idea, but that's not the only roadway that could be enhanced before you build. And I think they have some really valid points. It was also brought up last night at the Conewago Township meeting that approximately 500 signatures, with more being collected, were in hand at this time. So please reach out to the Stop the Eisenhower Drive Extension page, which is linked at the top, for more information about where other petitions may be available if you're interested in signing to support the no build. There were quite a few residents who were in attendance last night at the council meeting who spoke very passionately and intelligently, making some very good points. I'm not going to try and name everybody who spoke, but of the ones that I know that did, and even the ones I didn't, thank you for coming out and taking the time to do that. I know how difficult it is to get up and do that, especially when you're standing in front of a board of supervisors who you know is not open and receptive to what you're saying. Charlotte Schaefer had made some really good points. Tom Weaver, Belinda, I'm sorry, Belinda, I can't remember your last name right now, but, and there were more, there were many, many more than that who spoke in opposition. So your petition of 900 signatures isn't just 900 random signatures. The signatures that were completely out of the area were taken out of that petition. So we're talking local, indirectly, directly affected people who signed that petition, and over 90, I think it's approximately 90% of the people who live along the affected 5C route have signed this petition in opposition to the project, all supporting the no bill. And that it was a little disheartening to hear the township manager dismiss 500 signatures, especially when you know that 90% of the people who live along that route, including one of the supervisor's wives, signed that petition saying this directly affects us and it's improper that you're going through there. You know, don't discount what we're saying. This matters to us. It's our home, it's our business, it's our livelihood. And the statement was, well, we've had people in the township of 7,500 who have come to us but couldn't give a number, couldn't show a petition, couldn't even give an estimate if it was 5 people, 10 people, 100 people, how many. And so to be completely that dismissive of the people who were there that night, and you know, to have that manager, Barb Krebs, say, we'll take it under advisement, speaking for the Conewago Township supervisors, without having the Conewago Township supervisors even actually really engage or participate in that part of the process. It was concerning. It was concerning what I saw. So in one hand, it makes me feel kind of good that we're not alone. We're not the only one that's in bad shape in McSherrystown. You have your manager running your meeting in Conewago Township rather than your chair, and you have that person speaking in place of your supervisors who weren't even able to answer questions and had to defer to the manager when specific questions were asked of them. They say that they were deflecting about not having a position, but if you submitted paperwork, correspondence to PennDOT asking for a roundabout for commercial traffic, that does really sound like you're pushing for and supporting the project, and that you're discounting and disregarding the people who are coming out to speak. So it's just, again, one more reason why you need to pay attention to who's sitting on your council, what they're doing, and maybe even what they're not doing. Silence is complicit. When you say nothing, you are endorsing what is going on. I do want to take a second here to look at some of these comments. Yes, Bob, I agree that I felt the same way. When Tom Weaver was speaking last night to the Conewago Township supervisors, it looked very much like they had no interest in what he was saying, that he wasn't listening to them. You know, and that was the thing. I didn't get the feeling they were taking an active interest in listening to really anything the people were saying. It was kind of a humor and we're going to move on. Which is unfortunate. That shouldn't be happening. You know, that's again my opinion. But when I'm looking at, when I asked friends who have experience, who have municipal experience, should the borough manager, or I'm sorry, should the township manager be running the meetings? They're like, no, absolutely not. Talk to somebody else who, you know, sits on different zoning boards, and their impression was left by their supervisors. Like I said, if they checked all the boxes, they had to prove the development requests, and now they're finding out later that, hey, that's not the case. We need to look at our zoning. Do we have a health, safety, and welfare clause in here that we should be consulting with our school district and our fire services and our emergency services and our police department if it's unduly straining those, should we at least challenge it and say no? And I have seen sitting council members say, well, you can challenge it, but you're probably going to lose that battle in court. But shouldn't we at least try to stand up? I'd much rather have people sitting there who are willing to listen and who are willing to fight rather than just say, well, they're not going to listen to us anyhow, so we're not going to bother trying. That's the big difference between a council who represents the community and a council who's just putting in time and pushing through things that they want to push through. I do again want to mention some things about our borough council candidates. They are coming up again in 2 weeks for election, and some of you may not know some of the things that they've been doing, Mark and Dan and Bill and George and Joy. The candidates reaching out to the community, have been really working hard to get out there. Not necessarily knocking on doors and talking to people at this point, but they have been out there mingling, whether it's a senior center or different social clubs, and just talking to people that they know. Dan had attended the most recent Hamilton Township meeting. Bill was live streaming last night and attended a previous Hamilton, it was actually the zoning board for Hamilton Township, 2 different meetings. Joy's been busy like crazy painting signs and rocks and talking with local community members. George and Mark have been also attending meetings. I think Joy has attended some outside of McSherrystown as well. So they've been attending meetings and reaching out to the community, all in preparation for what they're doing, which is really great to see them, out there trying to reach out to people, see what their concern is, see what they're looking for. Since the primary, collectively, the 5 candidates have attended the SEK municipal finance seminars, attended webinars hosted by the Office of Open Records trying to learn more about right to know, sunshine law, attended zoning special and regular meetings at Hamilton Township, Hanover Borough, Conewago Township, McSherrystown Borough. I know they've been looking to other municipalities online like Gettysburg and different areas of how they're structuring their meeting minutes and the different ways that they're doing things, kind of get the best practices, trying to pull that together. They have sought information from the Pennsylvania State Association of Boroughs, consulted with the election office, reached out to former and sitting elected officials regarding municipal operation do's and don'ts, again, the best practices. They've also attended a SAVES municipal meeting that was recently. SAVES was nice enough to invite the candidates to come in that were on the ballot so that they had an idea of what was going on, because they would be asking for more money. Oops, sorry, my dog is getting antsy. But they've also done outreach into the community to talk to people who live here. So, it just, sorry, I was looking to see what he was barking at. They've been working hard to prepare, and I've seen them put more effort in the last 15 months than most of our sitting council members have put in on that and before doing this. So I give credit to them. No matter how the election turns out, I am really hoping we have 5 new council members in McSherrystown Borough, and I'm hoping the best for our area municipalities when it comes to their elections. There is something that a few people, not just on McSherrystown Council, Borough Council ballot as candidates, but other municipalities have brought to me. In the primary, a lot of people were write-in, or people are intending to be write-ins, even coming up on the general election, and they're concerned about doing straight party voting. I understand that is very much a routine that people have when they're doing this, but I need you to understand that especially if they won the ballot on write-in, you might not pick them up if you do a straight party ticket and they're not on both the Republican and the Democratic ticket, depending on where you are. In our instance, Mark, Dan, and Bill all are listed as Republican and Democrat because they won top votes in the primary. So if you did straight party, you're going to get them. But you might miss George. George was a complete write-in. He missed the Republican vote by 14 votes. So he's only on as Democrat. Those are for 4-year positions. Joyce Murrin is on the 2-year ballot as both a Democrat and Republican. So be mindful of voting, especially if you're voting in McSherrystown for positions like that. But make sure you know your candidates. One other thing I didn't mention about the ballot was the Marcy's Law. That link is up in the notes at the top of the post. Please make sure that you take a look at. That is a ballot initiative. That's, you're on there. That's asking you if you think that should, go forward. It's giving you a chance to look into that a little bit and not just vote yes or no without giving it some thought. That's something that's very important, but it's really important that you know and understand what you're voting for. So again, the reminder to YouTube, I will try and get this week's episode up tonight or tomorrow. But our next Borough Council meeting is after the election, which is November 13th. So keep that in mind. The next episode, due to Trick or Treat on Tuesday night, we're going to have the next episode on Wednesday, October 30th. I am intending to bring an episode to you on Monday, November 4th, right before the election, since Tuesday would be election night. So you can look for us then. Until then, I just want to thank you for tuning in. Good night. God bless. Please keep, the questions and the information coming. We really like being able to provide this to you. So if there's something more we can bring to you, please let us know and we'll be happy to get that information to you. If there's something going on in the state or your local municipality that you just feel like you need more information on, reach out to us and we will be more than happy to help you with that. So until next week, good night, God bless, and be safe trick-or-treating, everyone. Thank you so much. How was that, babe?
Good. Just catching the end of it.